Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
Hello, Peter. How are you?
Hello, Ben. I'm okay. It's a slightly earlier recording. Can you tell? Recording today. I can't even speak because time of recording we're doing all sorts of hashtag content today, aren't we? So we've got to get this out of the way. But apart from that, I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad. It's early. You're right. And I actually went to bed for the first time in a long time before 11 last night.
Wowzers.
Yeah.
Is that because you knew you had to get up?
Yeah, partly that, and partly because yesterday I just felt awful.
Oh, no.
And I don't think I've been sleeping very well, and it's probably because I'm looking at at memes until nearly 2 a.m. every night.
That's what I did last night.
Oh, did you? You must not be feeling great today then.
Well, it wasn't until 2 a.m. fortunately, but I mean, I got into bed last night and then I looked at memes for at least an hour I was just on Reddit or something, which I don't normally go on, but somehow I ended up on Reddit last night and was on it for ages.
And this is what happens. So you don't have the influence of your better half.
No, that's literally it.
Suddenly it's meme time, baby.
She's been gone for like 3 days, and we used to go to bed at like 11 because it was the sensible thing to do, and now I don't do that. I go to sleep at like 1.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping you can pull out this dive, because let me tell you just how amazing it was to be in bed before midnight, asleep before midnight, and then, as a result of a confused body clock, wake up every hour from 4 a.m. It was beautiful. It was so good.
Oh, wow.
You'd love it. Can't recommend it enough. Really good stuff.
I'll be having to do that for the rest of my life in about 2 weeks because she's finally moving back. So, and then that'll be it.
That's good.
No sleep ever.
No, only memes. Exciting. Okay, well, let's talk about video games, as we are wont to do. You have the sponsor for this week's show. We get sponsored every single week by a different relative company. Relative? Oh dear, relevant. That's what I'm trying to say. It is early, isn't it?
Yeah.
A relevant company. It's not even 10 a.m. yet. This is outrageous, quite frankly.
It is, yeah.
I don't like it. Can you please tell me what the advert says?
Have you ever? Well, let me ask you. You know that grandfather clock in your house, or that everyone's got in their house? Everyone's got a grandfather clock, right?
Yeah.
It was left to them by their grandfather. Well, if you've got any problems with it, perhaps with the chimes that it makes on occasion, don't worry. There's a service for that. Nintendo, on request, will send a gorilla round to come and fix any issues you've got with your grandfather clock and the noises it makes. That's right. If you've got a wonky dong, call Wonky Dong Limited, and they'll come and fix your wonky dong.
It is Wonky Dong. Wonky Dong is the company, right?
Yeah.
Is it named after the owner?
It's named after the owner and also the issues that they deal with. It's a very fortuitous kind of coincidence, really, that
That's really handy.
It all marries together. Unfortunately, they couldn't get wonkydong.com because it's like taken. A urologist's clinic.
Right.
But they're available at wonkydo.ng.
Oh wow, that's a good one. That's like our URL.
wonkydo.ng.
So is Wonky Dong, the eponymous Wonky Dong?
Yeah.
Is he or she a relative of Donkey Kong? Am I reading into that correctly?
Oh no, I don't think that's got anything to do with it at all.
No, but Nintendo are involved.
They are involved. Yeah, I'd not made that connection, but or maybe I had. That's how I came up with this as a lie.
No, get out of here.
I got you good there.
Get out of town. You really got me. I was about to call them because I am having problems with my Wonky Dong.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just thought I'd give them a ring and see if they could send someone out to, I don't know what it is they do.
De-wonk your dong.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. No, of course, that is absolute baloney. The real sponsors of the show each and every week are the wonderful patrons over at patreon.com/team TripleJump, where for as little as God, it's got to be about 20p a show, approximately.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Taking into consideration the fluctuating value of the pound sterling, 20p per show, that's $1 per month. You can ask questions for this podcast. And if you go over to our Patreon and check it out, you'll see the post. It goes up every Tuesday morning, and then we take the questions from it every Wednesday afternoon. So you have roughly a day and a half to get your questions in, and we'll pick 4 of them for this show. And one such person is
Gavin McCallion, whose middle name is Where Are We Walking Today? Gavin, Where Are We Walking Today, McCallion.
I thought you were going to say Gavin, the Italian stallion McCallion.
Oh, if only. Maybe that's where we're walking, just along the back of a horse from Italy.
A big horse. Yeah, I'd like that. Maybe the horse has a stereotypical Mario stash.
Oh, yeah, okay.
You know? Something like that. That'll work.
Yeah, just make a little bit of extra work for yourself there.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah. Okay. So Gavin, the Italian stallion, Where We're Walking Today, McCallion, asks, has a game ever made you want to be better at something in real life? The Last of Us Part 2 made me want to get better at guitar. Final Fantasy 15 made me want to be a better cook. Surgeon Simulator made me... Wait, never mind. Forget I said anything. Big love, Gavin. Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you, Gavin. Can we get someone to go and do a welfare check on Gavin, please?
Yeah.
Make sure that he's not...
I don't trust a horse with a scalpel. That seems like a bad idea.
He's not doing some surgeons in his back garden.
Well, there's all kinds of things in video games that where like in the game you're using a skill that you probably don't have in real life. It's kind of the basis of Prove It, really. But something that I've always, and this is like a sincere thing. It sounds a bit like I couldn't really think of an answer, so I just plucked something kind of obvious out of nowhere. But genuinely, when I play survival style games, it really makes me wish I could do like bushcraft and stuff. You know, if you play something like Ark or what's it called? Far Cry Primal.
Yeah.
Things like that. It makes me want to be able to shove bits of stone inside a stick and turn it into a spear, or build a shelter, or you know, do things like that. Start a fire. I'd like to be able to start a fire. That would be nice. Can't do that without fire lighters and matches, which is basically, that's not starting a fire yourself. That's just being present when flames happen. So I definitely wish I could do more of that. And I theoretically could do. I could very easily just buy a few books, maybe even sign up for a course in it. But I've got too many games to play, too many survival games to play. So there's no time to actually learn it.
Why would you bother learning when you could just experience what it's like over and over again?
Yeah, definitely. The only other thing, and I think this is interesting actually, that things like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, they make me want to be able to skate, and they made me want to be able to skate when I was younger. They were what, to me, made skating cool. I was barely even aware of it as a concept before the games came out. You know, I didn't watch it on TV or anything. But more to the point, even if I had seen skating on the telly, I think that video game skating looks way cooler, because real life skating, it's way harder to pull off like some really nifty tricks and get as much air as you get in the video games. So you watch professional skaters who are like top of their game, and they do stuff that obviously I could never ever do, and I'm aware that it's impressive and difficult, but it's just less of a spectacle than the stuff that you can do in video games. You know, jumping off a roof over a helicopter into an empty swimming pool.
Yeah,
I want to be able to do that, and that's
why can't I do that?
Exactly. Whereas, you know, you watch Tony Hawk do the 900, which is, you know, a fantastic achievement in professional skating, and you're just like, well, that's like the first thing I did in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, is just jump out of a half pipe and hold the right button until I turned around like 3.5 times or whatever.
Easy. That's easy, Tony.
It is, Tony. Get over yourself.
Idiot.
So, yeah, those games, even more than the real life actual activity, make me want to be able to skate better, or at all, in fact.
I just want to be able to grind along the blades of a helicopter and make it take off through the ceiling.
Make it go. Yeah, so you can get the secret tape.
That's it. It shouldn't be so hard to get secret tapes, really.
No.
I shouldn't have to be able to skate. I should be able to buy them. Yes. I think, right?
Yeah.
They've got to have a financial value that I can just give someone enough money.
No,
and then I can have all the secret tapes.
Not if they're secret, though. You can buy regular tapes, but the secret ones are top secret.
Oh, man. You know what we should do at some point for a Prove It?
Just hide a load of VHS tapes around somewhere.
Absolutely not, because neither of us would be able to get them, as discussed. But what we should do is a real game of horse.
Oh, wow, okay.
Except, obviously, it's going to be over so quickly because we're going to fall off constantly and hurt ourselves.
Right, so we could literally just we wouldn't have to hide the letters anywhere difficult. We could just put them in a straight line and we would still really struggle to get them in the allotted time.
Oh, I think that's skate. You have to get the letters skate. Horse is horse not the one where you have to do the better trick?
You have to out-trick each other, you're right.
Yeah,
yes,
and if you bail, then you get the letter automatically. Mm-hmm. So it would basically be an exercise in just trying to stay on the board, I think, which could be quite funny. And we'd have to bubble wrap ourselves up, obviously.
Yeah.
That could be fun. I mean, it wouldn't be, but it's an idea for a video when we're allowed outside.
I mean, how cheap are skateboards? We try and make those videos on a budget, and I think they're probably more expensive than you would think or want them to be. I think we get a
kid's skateboard, go around charity shops, check Gumtree, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
I don't want to spend any money on it, obviously.
No, I ain't spending any money on it.
Make our own skateboards.
Yeah.
And see how long those last with the wheels from an office chair.
Oh, geez, that sounds horrible. With a pivoting board that can spin around while you're skating.
Oh, my God. No, we'd fall off that immediately.
We would, yeah.
That'd be great, though. Anyway.
Apart from playing horse on an office chair board, what skills would you like to take out of video gaming, Ben?
Well, I had to think long and hard about this because I'm often quite content.
Because you're so skilled already.
I have nothing to learn. And I'm often quite content to experience things that I could never do in real life in video games. Like, it's great seeing Nathan Drake and Tomb Raider Lara Croft doing the big jumps and then falling down and really hurting themselves and then carrying on heroically. But I don't know that I want to do that in real life.
No.
There's inherently a massive risk posed by that. And I don't want to put myself in harm's way. I will say that playing Oblivion really, really made me want to just go outside into lush green environments. There's something quite magical about that. But there's one here, it's sort of twisting it ever so slightly, and it's a bit sad. But there was a period in like the late noughties where you saw all these in shape handsome men, Nathan Drake, Kratos, Commander Shepard. They're all like big, powerful, handsome boys.
They are.
And I think it was about that time that I really started thinking, oh man, it'd be nice to sort of be in better shape.
Right.
And so I did take some inspiration from watching those boys to sort of try and improve myself in real life. And I can't look like Kratos because there's no way you're going to take pizza away from me, but I could be better. And I think that was something I took from games, albeit not necessarily a skill, but a sort of like, oh man, maybe I don't have to feel like rubbish.
Yeah, I mean that's a good thing. It's I mean, I guess it's sad, the idea of you feeling like rubbish, but it's a good thing that that was something that video games was able to do for you, or were able to do for you, because it's that whole thing, isn't it, of dorky gamer boys just sitting in their room with their Cheetos. That's the stereotype that Grandma has in her head.
Absolutely.
But you could actually say to Grandma, well, no, Grandma, it's because of games that I work out in the gym, essentially.
Yeah. Grandma, watch me bench 500.
Watch me bench you, Grandma.
Grandma, will you spot me while I bench 600, please, Grandma? Grandma, no, I can't have any of your delicious Grandma snacks that you've made for me.
No.
I've got to bench and I need you to spot for me, Grandma.
Yes, Grandma, I am eating enough. Stop asking me that. I'm eating too much, probably.
I'm on the protein, Grandma.
Yeah.
So there we go. There's some things that gaming has given us, or has tempted us to try anyway, inspired us to try something, or think about what a nice idea it would be to make helicopters fly off through ceilings very safely.
Yeah.
Because of skateboards.
If only.
Yeah.
If only we could.
Let's move on to another section, Peter.
Okay, why not?
It's about playing video games.
Mm.
It's coming right now.
Yeah.
And it's called...
Yeah.
I can't pronounce it. It's too complicated for me.
What we playing?
It's What We Playin' time. Peter, what we playing?
Oh, we playing all sorts of things. All kinds of hip-hop happening. Dibbity-dop, doody-doo-doo-doops.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've been continuing to play The Elder Scrolls Skyrim, talking of Oblivion just moments ago, both on my streams, my weekly streams, and also separately in a completely different run offline. Again, partly because I don't have my PS4 rigged up here. Rigged up, as though it's a hugely complicated process.
It's huge.
Yeah. So that's been fun, continuing to just, in both cases, not really do any main quest stuff. One slightly more irreverent and silly than the other, that being the live one. But that's been a lot of fun. I have been on a bit of a binge of kind of information on the upcoming Crash game, which has made me play the old PS1 versions of Crash on an emulator on my PC, just because it's not a complicated storyline. It's not like I really need a refresher, but I am just intrigued to kind of, I don't know, just go over it all and think, because there might be some throwbacks to old levels or characters or things. So you kind of just going over that, and I may well stream them as well in the lead up to the release of Crash 4. So I've been doing that. Also, bit of scouting for streaming. I can't remember if I've actually spoken to you directly about this. I did a tweet about it, and I've talked about it a lot on my streams. But something that I really want to do when we get back to the office is try and play Spyro 1 from start to finish without flaming anything.
Oh, wow.
And I've worked out that it is possible. It's not possible to 100% the game that way, but you can, fortunately, to end the game and get to the first credit sequence, you don't need to 100% it. You just need to do enough that the balloonists will allow you to get to the next level and the next level. And I think you can free enough dragons and collect enough treasure without flaming anything.
Nice.
Until right at the end. And then I will have to flame Nasty Nork. So it's kind of like, I've been calling it like the Jack Sparrow run, where you carry your one shot with you throughout the entire game. And then in the final fight, you flame.
Excellent.
So I was just making doubly sure that is actually possible, and I think it is. I'm kind of halfway through, sort of, as I say, kind of scouting it out. But I've been thinking that maybe I'll just get a load of bad food in and do it in a single 6-hour stream one night from the office, just for funsies, really.
Amazing.
To earn some of that, earn some dollar for me and you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, donate big monies for Peter to not press circle.
That's it. That's it.
So, it's been yet again another throwback week for me, because that's all I can really do unless I start buying new PC games, which I don't. I've got enough to play on my PS4, to be honest.
Who's going to do that, eh? Who's got time for new PC games? Huh?
Not me, apart from... I mean, I'm going to be getting Halo 3 soon, I guess, but Yeah. But I'll be back soon in Newcastle with my PS4. So, really want to play Horizon. I got it for my birthday 4 months ago, and I've not been able to touch it.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it's one that I'm like, why have I not played that? Because I know I'll enjoy it. I just never got around to buying it. So, looking forward to that.
Did you finish Spidey in the end?
No, I didn't finish it. No, I just... I was enjoying it, and then... I don't know. I just kind of I didn't care that much about the story.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I think. Well, I enjoyed. I didn't dislike the story, but I just kind of I got a ways through. I think I was about 2/3 through, given what I've read online. Mm-hmm. And then I just kind of I I don't know. I think it was a bit combat heavy, that game. I'll say that about it. Like, it was super fun to swing everywhere, and I enjoyed all the like side missions and collectibles and stuff. But sometimes you kind of get to a new area and you'll be like, okay, right, let me just kill all of these guys, or not kill.
No, absolutely not kill. No.
So yeah, but I mean, definitely a good game. It just it didn't quite web me in all the way to the end. That common idiom, web me in.
That's it. I do know that one. I loved the story in Spidey. I thought it was it really built to a very comic booky crescendo that made you feel like the eponymous Spider-Man,
Yeah, I guess more to the point, actually. It's not that the story itself I didn't like, but I think I just felt like I was grinding a bit, just beating up a lot of people all the time, which it makes sense. You're a superhero, like of course you're going to do lots of fightings, but So the story was fine, but I just kind of felt like I don't want to do more punching. Thank you very much.
That's fair.
Yeah. I've got a low threshold for screw
punches.
It. I'm done. Yeah, for punches. What about you? What have you been playing this week?
Well, I've been being a big boy legend and just, cleaning up in Call of Duty Warzone.
Oh, yeah?
Won another game, didn't I?
Oh,
bloody hell. My first game back as well. It was,
right.
I seem to exclusively play Warzone now with old, school friends. Not old school friends. And that's really nice because we don't hang out otherwise, and I usually only see them maybe once a year, if that. But obviously this year that's highly unlikely. So it's been really nice to reconnect with them and play some Warzone with them. And I just spent a lot of last Saturday just playing Warzone and hanging out and making stupid jokes, and it was really good fun. And the first game, we won it, which is kind of unbelievable. Obviously, it was downhill from there, but we were having a lot of fun with it. And I think that's what I like about Warzone, is that we always have fun. It's one of the few Battle Royale games where I feel like I usually always have fun.
Right.
Regardless of how short the games are, because you can just mess around if you want. And sometimes it goes well.
Okay.
So that's good. Cuphead. That bloomin' came out of nowhere on PS4 this week.
I never thought that would happen. I thought they were going to just keep hold of it.
Well, that's what they said.
Yeah.
That's what they said too. It's never coming to PS4. And then, a few hours before, it starts showing up on storefronts and people are like, hang on, what? Why is this happening? And then the next day, it's live. You can buy it. So I bought it. And I have started it up twice now and played approximately 10 minutes in total.
Oh, okay.
Because that game is difficult.
Yeah, I've heard that. And it doesn't... Sometimes it looks difficult when you watch footage, and sometimes it doesn't. And you're like, what's everyone complaining about? It's just Steamboat Willie with a gun.
Right.
It's easy.
It's easy, right? I'm watching it.
Yeah, I'm sure it's definitely not in reality.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a tough game. And the last, both times I started it up, I definitely wasn't in the right headspace to play a game like that. Because I was just thinking, oh, God. And so I was like, you need to stop playing this now and come back to it when you are in a better mood, sir.
When you've got your Soulsborne head on.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's a game that I'm very excited to play more of, but not just yet, because I'm in the middle of this very chilled open world game where you follow foxes and birds who take you to shrines and things.
Yeah.
And then I'm going into this and I'm being beaten up by onions that are crying and rude boy carrots that are throwing smaller carrots at me, but I don't know if they're sentient or not, and I don't know if there's some sort of twisted lore there. I have no idea. But took a little leave of absence from Cuphead there for a minute while I focused on other things. But Ghost of Tsushima, I'm continuing to enjoy that. I've been playing for a number of hours now, and I've only just done the second mission after the introductory mission.
Oh my God.
Because I've just slowly been making my way downtown, walking fast, and just sort of following my nose, because the next mission was on the south of the island, and there were various icons on the way there, and I would just go between them and just mosey on down, and it all felt like I was still experiencing this open world. It's like the best Ubisoft open world game Ubisoft have never made.
Yeah.
It's like an Ubisoft open world game with soul. And I know people love those games, and I don't want to take that away from people. I've made it very clear that those games aren't usually for me. I'm sort of looking forward to Assassin's Creed Valhalla based on what I've seen. That seems to be a huge improvement on the other games for me personally.
Yeah.
But there's just something about this game that the world just feels very alive, and it's so good at distracting you in ways that you don't feel like you're wasting your time.
Yeah,
Similar to what you were saying about Spider-Man, actually. Sometimes when I'm riding to my next objective that I've set myself, they just sort of populate the map with little groups of Mongols who are walking around. And you see the icon pop up saying, would you like to start a standoff with them? And I think, well, I'm going to have to kill them all, obviously, but it does serve to sort of disrupt every single ride you have on your horse between areas. So that was sort of getting in the way a bit when I was playing yesterday, but on the whole, still really enjoying it. Obviously not that far into it, even though I've mostly upgraded my character now because of all the side stuff I've done. But really, really good. Enjoying it a lot, actually.
Ah, brilliant. Yeah, when you put it like that, that might be partly what got in the way of me in Spider-Man, is that I'd be doing all these side missions, like going to thug bases and doing fighting with them, and then I'd be like, okay, I better do some story now, and then it would be a mission in which I essentially go to a thug base, and I'd be like, oh, I've just done this, you know?
I love thug bases.
It's a shame. It's kind of, I feel like it was my fault, really. I should have enjoyed that game. It should have been one of my favourite games of the time, and it was just a very good one and not the very best.
You'll buy it again on PS5 because Sony will make you.
I'll definitely go back to it. Yeah, for sure. I saw a clip the other day of someone just swinging through New York on it. I was like, oh damn, it was so good, wasn't it? The travel in that game alone.
It's a very good game. Very much looking forward to Miles Morales whenever that comes out.
Of course.
Let's move on to another question.
Let's. It's from Slaughtermain.
Oh,
and what does Slaughtermain say?
Hi guys, thanks for keeping me sane in my long drives to and from work. The podcasts are a beacon of shining light on my working weekends. You're welcome. I said that really weirdly, like I'd never read a sentence before, and I'm sorry for the strange inflections there. My question for today: when Ben was talking about Ghost of Tsushima in the podcast 2 weeks ago, he said it reviewed fine. There seems to have been a drastic shift in what scores classify as good, because I remember, cue old man voice, back in my day, that a game being reviewed at 6 out of 10, or sometimes 5 out of 10, being classed as fine. But it seems now that a 7 out of 10 is usually classed as subpar. 8 out of 10 is fine. What do you think happened, and why? Very quickly, Peter, I'd like to clarify what I meant by fine. I meant it in sort of the understated British sense of it did not review poorly. Yeah. So certainly in the Quipscope, at least, clearly I could have been a bit clearer on the podcast as well. I did clarify that it scored the same as Spider-Man, and I loved Spider-Man. Right. But when I said that it reviewed fine, it doesn't mean that 84 or whatever it got on Metacritic is fine. It just means
it's only fine. Yeah.
It didn't review badly, is what I meant. It reviewed really well, obviously. A score in the 80s is really good. But why do you think review scores now increasingly, if they're not sort of 85 plus, people are like, rubbish?
Yeah, like all that aside that you said about what you meant by fine, I think Slaughtermain obviously still has a point that, it has to be a good 70, well, over 75% now to be fine, whereas, I think it probably was the case that 5 or 6 out of 10 used to be fine. I don't know. I think this actually goes beyond video games, which is dangerous territory for this podcast.
Whoa!
But I think the same thing can be said about movie reviews and even just anything that has a rating out of 5 stars. You know, if you go on Amazon now and I'm about to buy, some headphones or whatever, if I see that it's got a lot of 4-star reviews, that actually makes me sort of just stop and think a little bit. And I don't know why it should, If it's anything less than, if it's like 4 stars or less, I'm like, what's wrong with it then? What's wrong with it? It's like, well, no, don't worry. It just means it's very good but not perfect. So this is a tricky thing. I thought about this question for a while when I saw the notes ahead of the recording, and I think certainly something that we've noticed in doing worst games ever is that critics used to be way off in certainly around the kind of PS2 era, where they actually seem to be way more generous. But then that might be us looking at that in hindsight and saying, oh, well, they were wrong. You know, our views of what good and bad has changed now. But, you know, we play terrible games and they give them scores of like, you know, 60%, 70%, and it's difficult to understand how a metric that's supposed to be fairly objective really has actually changed in meaning.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at it, you would think that a 50% score ought to be the midpoint. You know, it ought to be, well, that's right in the middle of good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not. 50% is not a good review. But yeah, all I'm doing really is saying, yeah, that is a phenomenon, Slaughtermain. You are right, and I don't really know how or why it's happened.
It's true though. Now, once you go below 70%, a game could score literally anywhere in that region, and it still means the same thing. You know, one IGN could give it 30. Push Square could give it 60, and it wouldn't matter because both those scores will make you go, oh, well, it's not very good then. I don't know. Sorry.
And I don't know if it's a change in our standards as such. Obviously, games have got better in terms of what they can do. So in that sense, our expectations have gone up. But I think they've only gone up relatively. You know, I think we were always expecting the best of what was achievable at that time, whether it's now or 2005 or 1995. You know, so I don't think that even accounts for it necessarily. But maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Do you have any possible explanation for this that I've not thought of?
I have a theory.
Okay.
Games are expensive, right? They are expensive, and I know people are very quick to shout, well, inflation, and if you should be paying £1,000 for games now, blah, blah, blah. But wages haven't risen in line with inflation. They haven't. And so games are expensive, and it's an expensive hobby, and games are getting bigger. And the best games have such an insanely large budget and development time now that they sort of stand head and shoulders above a lot of their peers. So by comparison, the score that they receive when compared to other games, I think is sort of rationalized accordingly. So when you get those big Red Dead Redemption games and they're pushing 100%, it's like they're not perfect, are they? But they have to be that high because everything else sort of can't score below 80%, apparently, for some reason. Nothing to score something below 80% is considered some kind of slight, right?
Yeah, right.
Like it's just not worth playing. And that's not to say you can't still find redeemable qualities and fun in a game that scored sub 80%. But when so many games now are large and sprawling and, you know, live service, constantly evolving games, for me at least, and I think this is the case perhaps for a lot of people as well, the score has to hit a certain very high point before I'll consider diving in, because I don't have the time nor the money for it otherwise. If you're trying to sell me a 100-hour RPG or an 80-hour Assassin's Creed game, if it's not scoring really well, and by really well, again, I'm defining that as probably high 80s to 90s, then I don't consider it worth my time because I know it's a huge time investment and I need to know that it's going to be worth that. And there are games that exist that score that highly. And so I'll play those. And so when games come out that don't score that highly, it's going to make people sit back and think, well, is this worth me even jumping into? And I think that probably has an effect on review scores as a whole, right?
Yeah, you might be right. I think that is a good theory. Yeah, if all these, or maybe not all these, but a handful of games are scoring hundreds and 99s and 98s, then those become, I guess it does kind of shift. I guess the point is, it's what has really shifted ultimately is what 100% means. And then everything else has had to shift below that, so that, 80 or 75 even used to be a really good game. But now that the 100% games are so good, you've had to move everything down a little bit. It's like the UMS marks for when you did exams in the UK. UMS was like they would change all the grade boundaries depending on how well everyone else had done in the country.
Right.
So it wasn't just, if you get 80% in this exam, you'll get an A or an A star. It's all dependent on what an A star actually is around the country, and then everything underneath that gets changed accordingly. And yeah, I think that probably could be it.
Yeah. I think we just need a total do-over. I still think scores are important. There's a lot of debate around scores, because I think it does give people a very good general idea of what a game is worth to you and whether it's worth your time. As I said, that's the big thing, is that games are expensive, and they're more often than not, they're going to take up a lot of time. And if it's not scoring really well, then you need to know that. And I do think, you should read the whole review. But I think, case in point recently for me, the Destroy All Humans remake, I got a bit of flack online for my opinions of that, because obviously we didn't put out a scored review because there was an embargo for that, which was the Monday following when we released the thoughts and impressions thing. But I played it and I could tell, this isn't great. This isn't a good 2020 video game. And the Metacritic for PS4 is now on 69, which is obviously nice, but also I think very fairly reflective of the quality of that game. Whereas you look at the Steam reviews from users, it's got a perfect 10 out of 10, because that's the market that loves that game. Because the people who are buying it, as I said, would most appreciate it are the people who are probably fans of the original, and they're clearly the people who've bought it, and so they love it. And so it is all subjective as well. And I think, again, the debate regarding the importance of review scores sort of rages on and has been for a long time. But I do think they have value. And while the boundaries perhaps should be shifted slightly, and we should reset what people rank games as. God, I can't even get the words out, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's tough. Like it's difficult because reviewers now have all grown up with a review system that's always been like this. So that is how they know how to score games. But I do think it has something to do with the fact that as I said, games are expensive and there's only so much time in the day. So if it's not scoring crazy well, then you're probably not going to give it a go. Nor should you have to.
You're right. I think Destroy Humans is a good example of that. It is by some metrics an okay or even perhaps a good game if you're a fan of the old one. But should people be spending money on that and investing time into that when there are other games out there to play? Probably not. If they're not going to enjoy, if as a reviewer that a lot of people aren't going to enjoy that as much as they would enjoy other games, particularly if they've not played the original, then we have to, or the industry has to give it a score that means, hey, it's not as good as some of these other ones. You see all these others that have got 80 or 85 or 90? We're going to have to give this game less than that, and we're all going to have to collectively agree that means it's okay, even though it's in, the sort of the upper third of scores.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a strange phenomenon.
Yeah. And Destroy a Human score doesn't mean it's bad either, obviously.
No.
I don't think it's a bad game, but I don't think it's as good as Red Dead Redemption, for example,
Yeah.
So how do you get that across without putting it below that perceived good that worth playing, that fine area of 80% plus? It's difficult. It's really hard, but it has shifted. It has definitely shifted in the past sort of 15 years, I would say, really.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Well, there we go.
Well, it's a bit of a weird thing that has shifted, really.
Yeah.
You would have thought it would be completely static, but it's weird. It's pretty weird that that's happened. Hang on, let me just also
fetching it.
Grab my weird thing. Hang on.
Yeah.
It's all folded up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's weird that.
Yeah.
A bit like the next section.
Weird news?
Which is called Weird News.
Weird news.
Weird News.
It's Weird News time. Welcome to Weird News. Did we even answer the last question properly? I don't really know. We did have a conversation about review scores, though, so hopefully that's fine.
We did, yeah. There were moments in that where I was like, hang on, are we arguing for the opposite thing here? And then I was like,
I don't know. Talking about it?
Yeah.
You know what? It's the answer is I don't know, but I can tell you what I take from it, and that's it. There we go. Weird news me, Peter.
Okay, I've got a weird news here that I only discovered yesterday. Someone had sent me some weird news, and I thought they'd just atted me on Twitter. They tweeted me. They'd actually DM'd it to me. But I was going through my mentions trying to find it, and I accidentally found one that I'd completely missed from at basically_Cody, who tagged both me and you in this weird news story. And it was. I must have skimmed past it. Australian streamer attacked by magpie.
Oh my goodness.
This is written by Alex Walker, and it's on kotaku.au, kotaku.com.au. Now, when I heard this headline, I thought it was not going to be very gaming related. I've seen videos of people on YouTube who are riding their bikes or they're out having a picnic and magpies are swooping down on them, right? And you're like, okay, is this just a guy who is he's like a life streamer rather than a gaming live streamer? And they just go out with a phone and hook up to 4G and just film them going to the shop or whatever. So I thought he was going to get attacked in the street. However, that is not the case. So here we go. Australian streamer attacked by magpie. Even streaming inside in Australia doesn't guarantee you're safe from an old-fashioned swooping. That's what Aussie gamer Lynchy discovered this afternoon. In the middle of a lengthy overtime game of ranked Valorant, is it Valorant? I've never heard of that before. The 28-year-old Australian got interrupted by a cheeky magpie who flew in from a side door. After being initially startled, the Aussie sat back down to finish the round, only to cop the magpie equivalent. Oh, I see. Only to cop the equivalent of a magpie headshot. What the F? The Aussie exclaimed before his webcam and headset were sent flying. It's really brutal as well. He's sitting, playing the game, looking into his screen as you would expect. And in the background, you hear this crash, and a magpie just tumbles it's just on the floor in the background of the thing. And he's like, oh, what? And it sort of flutters out of frame again, and he carries on playing, and then it bats him right in the face. It's suddenly way up in the camera out of nowhere. It's like a jump scare almost. Smacks him in the face. So wildlife and Twitch are nothing new, says the article, but you usually see them on IRL streams, not on the 30th round of a Valorant game. When asked later how exactly the magpie got in to begin with, Lynchy explained it was a combination of a bird-friendly partner and toilet training for a new dog. A bird-friendly partner?
What?
Okay. Here he continues. I got this brand new puppy, 2 months old, only picked him up 3 days ago, Lynchy said. So while I'm gaming, I need to leave that door open that's next to me so he can go to the toilet and stuff and do his doggy business. And because my partner has been feeding the magpies over the last few days, they're starting to hang around the back fence and stuff. So that's how they got in the side, was not expecting that. As a nice bonus, Lynchy's team still won the overtime game, and for anyone worried, the magpie safely went outside.
Wow.
Lovely.
We should never stream again. It just seems too, based on the very little anecdotal evidence we have.
Yeah.
You can get struck by lightning.
You get swatted.
Your cat could be sick in your computer.
Oh, no, yeah.
Magpie could attack you. Screw that, quite frankly.
It's that whole thing, isn't it, of, there are loads of things that happen nowadays where people are saying they don't happen more often than they used to. It's just now that we've got cameras everywhere, we catch this stuff on film. You know, there were always magpies flying in and doing 6 on someone's SWAT team, but now...
Even in the 80s.
Yeah, but now it's happening a lot more. Yeah. So
Wow.
What a weird story.
That is weird. How bizarre.
Have you got something to weird me back with?
I have. Are you ready?
Yes.
This is from Game Rant and Jason Rochlin, I believe.
Right.
Dominos makes fun of Halo Infinite graphics controversy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the UK branch of Domino's Pizza adds on to the discourse surrounding Halo Infinite's graphics following its lackluster gameplay reveal last week. Before I read any more, I mean, it's the internet and it's memes, but God, I really feel like Halo's taking an absolute battering at the moment online, and I don't know that it really deserves as much grief as it's getting.
This is completely passed me by. I saw the reveal
really?
of the box art and stuff, and the comparison with Halo 1, and people saying that was a good thing. That was before we saw the gameplay. Then we saw the gameplay, and me and you both agreed it didn't look that great graphically. It looked like an average current gen game.
Yes.
But since then, I've not seen any sort of discourse on it. So
people have been brutal about the memes are flying out of control. I think it's a bit, I mean, as I said, it's the internet and it's memes, and I don't think many people take it that seriously, but my goodness, how some people are taking it very seriously.
I have seen that brute face meme.
Yeah, I love the brute face. Brute face is, your brute face is beautiful. Brutal.
Yes.
When Microsoft unveiled gameplay for Halo Infinite at its Xbox Series X showcase earlier this month, the biggest takeaway from fans was evident through a flood of memes about Halo Infinite's graphics. That palpable disappointment with what many regard as an underwhelming look at a next-generation system seller has kept up since Thursday's event, to the point that now corporations like Domino's Pizza are capitalizing on the trend. Earlier today, the Twitter account for the Domino's Pizza UK branch posted an image questioning the potential of next-generation graphics by pixelating half a pizza, with very pointed text using the Halo Infinite hashtag that says, "Don't worry, Chief, Domino's always delivers."
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
The company's Malaysian branch has drawn attention on social media as of late by using pizza to make fun of Sony's PlayStation 5 reveal and posting other video game references, so it seems other facets of Domino's are following suit. And then it just goes on and on and on and on about how the internet doesn't like how the game looks. I'll send you the tweet now.
Mm-hmm. It's weird. I wonder how lawless, like, sub-branches of Domino's social media is as a world, you know, as a frontier. Mm-hmm. Are they just allowed to basically post whatever they want without checking with some sort of central thing? Because you think it, in a sense, it's not a great look to just like, in some ways it's fine, it's fair game, it's just the memes, but at the same time you kind of wonder, does it look okay to just be like, hey, other company that's not slighted us in any way whatsoever, your product is crap.
Yeah, screw you guys. It's that sort of silence brand meme. Whereas like brands just trying to be relatable, buy our products, consume. Yeah. And sometimes it can genuinely be quite funny and surreal to see Domino's Pizza go after Halo Infinite. But at the end of the day, they're trying to sell you their greasy diarrhea bombs. And you know you're going to buy it.
God, I want one now.
However,
there's pixels.
That really pixel, half the pizza is pixelated. The other half, which my expert opinion, and I'm sure yours as well, Peter, can identify as a pepperoni passion.
It is one, yeah.
You will never, ever get that even distribution of pepperoni that is on that pizza.
I was going to say, it's
in a
ridiculous.
way, they've actually lied themselves. Maybe we should reply with our own meme that shows what a real pepperoni passion looks like. Orange, because all the grease has melted the box it came in.
And random distribution of slices.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Weirdly shaped slices and pepperoni just wherever they could fit it, basically.
Because they made it look like a wheel, because the very middle of it is just cheese because of how the pepperoni's lined up. That is not what happens. You don't get a cheesy circle in the middle.
You get one mushed piece of pepperoni in the middle that's been sliced 8 times and is fused with the box by the time it arrives. That's what you get.
And then you eat it and enjoy it.
You do, and then you don't enjoy it 6 to 8 hours later.
No.
But You are right, though, about brands going after each other, because I distinctly remember they did a tie-in, an official tie-in with Halo in the UK. Wow, Domino's did. I can't remember what it was called exactly, but I think it had burgers in the crust.
Okay.
Domino's Halo Pizza Burger.
Burger crust.
Let's have a look. No, that's not it. 2018. It was way before then. Domino's Pizza to acquire Hallo Pizza chain in Germany. That's not what I want. Halo Pizza UK. No, it's all just. I'm just getting search results from the past few days, but I'm fairly sure there was an official tie-in. Maybe it was Pizza Hut. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I was fairly sure it was Domino's, but I think there was one. They did an official partnership a while ago, and so that is kind of surprising. Again, just sort of like, got you. Well, we'll never work with you again then. No, wait, come back.
No, hold up. We could have done a Halo-shaped pizza where it's just crust and no filling at all. You just buy a stuffed crust ring.
Maybe it was for Halo 3. It was a really long time ago. I do remember that much. Or maybe it was for Halo 4. I don't know. Someone will know. Somebody tweet us and let us know. But I'm fairly sure there was a Halo pizza, something to do with burgers in the crust. It was pretty lawless. I didn't have one. But, weird. That's weird.
It is pretty weird. Yeah. Well, thanks for that.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Now we know. It's time for another question. It's from John Thompson here. Sort of second-guessed myself. I thought it said Joe Thompson, but it doesn't. John Thompson says, "Hi, Bopper and Peeper. Being frank, I'm old. I lived through the horrific gaming days when shovelware outnumbered quality releases. Gaming magazines were filled with many eligible participants for worst games ever, and shop shelves were littered with the detritus from companies like THQ and Acclaim. With the demise of many shovelware publishers at the start of this generation, we've been fortunately blessed with many high-quality releases. However, as evidenced by THQ Nordic and 2K Games' questionable remasters," did you hear my air quotes there?
I heard them.
Do you think we're on the verge of a surfeit of old and rubbish classics being remastered to close out this golden age of games just for profit? Thanks, and keep up the good work. From John.
What was 2K Games' latest remaster? Have they remastered or remade something?
Yeah, I wasn't sure what that one referred to specifically. 2K, I mean, don't they at the moment just make sports games, basically?
Pretty much.
2K Games.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously THQ Nordic, we probably know what John is talking about.
Yes.
In a wider sense, though, the shovelware, it still very much exists. It's just digital now.
Yeah,
but
that's true.
John is absolutely right that THQ Nordic is at least populating the market with games that we certainly used to consider to be AA. And there really has been a lack of AA games. Again, there have been a lot of, fine, which is a taboo phrase now, games released digitally. But you what's up?
I've just found out what it is. Mafia.
Okay, right, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah, that's the boy. That's the boy.
Course.
Mafia 2, that shining example of a remaster. But I think this also ties back into our discussion about review scores, I think. Because there's so many digital games released now that it's difficult to stand out. And so when you've got a company like THQ Nordic which actively markets and sells physical copies of games that are not, going to set the world on fire, perhaps that'll start to pull that harsh critical curve back down again when they start to reintroduce, as they have done already, for want of a better term, the AA game. The stuff that THQ used to publish, the stuff that has a fan base and that people really like, but it's not comparable to your 5 years, $100 million games like Red Dead Redemption 2 and The Last of Us and so on. The big games that take forever, that just ruin the curve for everyone else because they just sit at the top and push everything down, or everything has to try and bunch up together. there's definitely money to be made in that AA market. Smaller budgets means there's less pressure to receive insane review scores, which means much like indie games, they can take risks and innovate. Will they? I mean, certainly haven't seen THQ Nordic, to choose a specific example, do anything particularly incredible yet. But considering that they apparently had 96 games in development at the start of this year, there's still time for them to pull it back and start showing some interesting games that, you can see and think, oh, I'll give that a go. It's not releasing at a price point of 60 quid, and it's scoring in the 70s, but I like the idea. I'll give that a go. And you're not going to see that kind of stuff come from Ubisoft or EA, But going back to the question about sort of rubbish classics, I wouldn't call Destroy All Humans rubbish, to be fair, but I would say that it, as I said at the time, it's an interesting choice for a remake, certainly. I don't know. I feel like this is the time period now between PS5 and Xbox Series X coming out to get as many of these games out as possible. And my word, are we seeing them starting to all show up now for some reason. But I don't know. I mean, I'd rather they get it out of the way now and start releasing, new games or continuations of franchises and so on by the time the PS5 and Xbox Series X comes out.
Yeah, I look at it and I'm like, part of me just says, oh, well, the remake and remaster trend can't last forever because eventually all the good ones will have been done. But then, obviously, time is infinite, and history, there's more and more history as every second of human existence goes by. And basically, that just means, at the moment, there's still kind of more of a focus on PS1. I know they're now venturing into PS2 territory as well. And obviously, we're not just talking about Sony consoles here, but those are the ones we're familiar with. And, soon it'll be that like all the remakes and remasters are coming from the PS2 era, and they'll start to venture almost into PS3 era by the time the PS5 comes out. So, yeah, there is essentially an infinite supply of remake and remaster candidates, as it were. So you do wonder, in that respect, if there is an endless supply and maybe even an endless demand for it. It may carry on forever, but I do think that to an extent there is a trend in it. I was thinking about this the other day with not just remakes of things, but when franchises get brought back after a long hiatus. So I watched Jurassic World the other day, which I've seen before, but I just watched it. And it made me think, oh yeah, Jurassic Park as a series just sat for ages and ages, and then they said, hey, let's do this again. And, it's then got me thinking about all the Disney CG and live action remakes of all the cartoon-based animations they did. And I think there is, at the moment, a big trend in remakes and remasters, not just because it's just sort of spontaneously happened, but I think because we're at a kind of sweet spot in the development of like the available technology, both in cinema and in video gaming. People are looking back at games that at the time had major limitations in what they could do, like in terms of scope and even just in terms of visuals. And now we're at a point where we can obviously remake those or do them in an HD release. And so in that respect, I would like to think that sort of around PS3, kind of Xbox 360 era games, there won't be as much call for all those to start being remade and remastered again, because that's where the limitations started to fall away to a certain extent, things looked pretty good at that point, and you could make worlds pretty large. You didn't have loads of smaller areas separated by loading screens, and so maybe once we've got through the kind of original Xbox, PS2, GameCube games, there will be a bit of a calming in terms of remakes and remasters. And likewise in cinema. I think once we've done all of those hand-drawn films in the Disney re-releases, then they're not going to keep doing it forever and ever, I'd like to think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, We'll have to see.
Yeah, absolutely. And being a real stickler about the definition of remakes and remasters, I'd like to see, remakes start to fall away, as you said, as we move towards PS3 era games. Although, we're getting a remake of Demon's Souls, and I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, true.
So sometimes there are cases where it will be like, oh my goodness, this is actually a really good idea. And you can do, as we've said, you can do a remake and really do a fantastic job of, bringing a game up to modern standards and allow it to be experienced by loads of people who never played it before.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah. That's what I was going to say, is that Soulsborne games are now probably way more popular than they were when Demon's Souls came out. So, now I think there's a whole new audience for that. And, I know you're looking forward to it partly because you're a fan, but also, I guess, because it's probably nice. It'll be nice for you to be able to talk to people about that game who haven't played it, but enjoy all the other Soulsborne games, right?
Yeah.
And likewise, I wouldn't be surprised if Beyond Good and Evil 2 goes down well, if they re-released the original again. I don't know if they'd remake it entirely, but they might do another remaster of some kind, just so people, like the new audience for that series, will be able to play that. And again, that's a game that I enjoy, and I'll play that just for fun, but I'll also enjoy the fact that I'll be able to talk to other people about that game if there's a newfound audience for it.
Yeah, so. And you've always got to take into consideration backwards compatibility as well, so you can always play those original games if you're able to on your console or platform of choice. But I wouldn't say no to a remastered trilogy of the Resistance games on PS5, because clearly we're not going to get them on PS4 for some reason, right. Or Infamous and so on, the games that you can't play anymore unless you have a PS3, which is weird that they haven't brought those across. So there's always going to be occasions where they'll say, oh, by the way, we're going to release all these this entire series of games you can't play anymore unless you have that console as a trilogy, and you can just play it. And be like, awesome. I don't care if you haven't done anything to it at all, as long as it runs okay. Yeah. I'm just excited to play it again. So, while there are certainly companies and outfits that are making remakes and remasters of dubious quality, shall we say, I think there'll always be a place for them, particularly as we move further away from consoles where those games are stranded.
Yeah.
But it's a case by case basis. There's no definitive answer. I'm not against the idea of seeing more remasters and remakes, because as with Destroy All Humans, it just allows super fans and fans of the original to just play them again. And they deserve to play their games just as much as we deserve to play our favorite games. I'm sure there are Destroy All Human fans who couldn't give less of a plop about Final Fantasy VII Remake, but I'm sure they don't begrudge people for being able to play it.
No.
So it's nice that those people are catered for, but hopefully not in a Mafia 2 remastered way where the remaster is just broken.
Yeah.
Because that's not good.
No, hopefully, if remakes and remasters continue, then at least they'll be of good quality on average.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Right, well, blooming hell, we're really going for it today, aren't we?
We are, yeah. Then we reach for a prop.
Oh yes, we've got 15 minutes until we have to talk to our patrons of a certain tier for a couple of hours, so we really need to smash through this big discussion. It's big discussion time. This big discussion comes from Dan Scott. Hello, boys. The likes of The Last of Us Part 2, Red Dead Redemption 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and the Resident Evil 3 Remake all met criticism from a small minority of players who had perhaps let their expectations reach a point that these games could never realistically reach, whereas something like Ghost of Tsushima, which went under the radar a little bit, as much as a big-budget AAA game with a long development cycle can go under the radar at least, isn't met with similar criticism, despite the imperfections that this game contains as well. Do you believe that tempering your own hype and expectation can be crucial to how much you like a game, and has hype ever caused you to be a little let down by a game you'd have perhaps loved more if you'd managed your expectations better? Thank you, Dan. Should we answer that last question first, Peter, about being let down by a game you were very hyped for?
if there's any specific ones. I can't think of any that. So there's a difference to kind of my answer to the previous part of the question kind of leads into the fact that the answer to that last bit is no for me, but only because when I get hyped for something, generally I don't go in. My hype isn't that I've got high expectations for quality. My problem is that I get very hyped for something, and then if I don't stop myself, and sometimes I do stop myself, I will consume everything that's out there. I will find the dedicated YouTube channels for people who cover, whatever it is that's being released. Like, I'm the number one spot for all your Spyro Reignited news, and I'll watch every video they're putting out, and that can be the problem, is because then you lose the pleasant surprises, and it's almost like your experience of the game is spread over a 6-month or 12-month or 2-year period before it's even come out, and you're just having little bits drip fed to you. And so when you experience all those bits together, you don't get to have that full that all-encompassing experience for your first hour or so, because you've already seen the little bits and pieces, and it's sometimes you don't get the sense of something being greater than the sum of its parts because you're already very well acquainted with those said parts. Mm-hmm. However, Spyro Reignited is a bad example because that was a game where it's a good case in point of something I was really excited for, but I wanted to not go in wanting too much, as you did with The Last of Us Part 2. And one of the things I made sure I did not do was watch more than the first clip that they'd released of a dragon being freed. Because when I watched that first one, I realised, oh, hang on, all 80 of the dragons are going to have different designs, different voices. They're all going to be unique, which they weren't in the original game. And I thought, oh, I want to meet every single one of those dragons and not know what they're going to look like, what they're going to say, their designs and so on. And so I stopped myself, and I thoroughly enjoyed freeing every single dragon, which kind of took me back to the first time I played that game when I was younger. It was always a thrill to open a dragon statue. So yeah, I think it is important to step back and not consume too much of something that you're very excited for. Yeah. But yeah, there's not a game that I was let down by because I had high expectations. It's just because I'd already kind of let myself see too much.
Yeah, I think absolutely is trying to take a step back from things really can elevate a game experience. But sometimes, these companies just don't help themselves with the amount that they're showing off. My two examples of games where I sort of let my hype get the better of me, I think it was my fault. And it wasn't because I was consuming too much. It was because I got an idea in my head about what the game would be, and that's not what it was. Now, the first example here, this isn't one that I had personally, but I saw it erupt all over the internet, and that's No Man's Sky. Is people were expecting this game to be something that it just wasn't going to be. And when you look at even though they lied about what it was going to be, ultimately, people were extrapolating things from their marketing that they simply weren't saying. And they were expecting it to be this like space opera, and it was like, well, no, hang on. I mean, I was looking at that with frustration and thinking, what is it that you do in this game though? You haven't told us what the goal is. Yeah, it's huge, but like, what do you do in it? Like, what's the point? Is there a story? Like, what's the purpose? And they were being intentionally vague, and because of that, people were taking from it things that they weren't saying, and so there was, beyond the obvious lies, there was no way that game was ever going to live up to expectations for some people. And in a similar vein, Unreal Tournament 3, as I've spoken about on here before at various points, was one that I was super excited to play with my friends because it had like campaign co-op, but then the campaign was obviously, just several stages of these tournaments against AI bots, and it was like, well, this is actually not what I was expecting at all, and so I was super disappointed. And the other one was Red Dead 2, which was sort of like a cowboy simulator rather than a cowboy game, and for me, that's not what I wanted, and so I was disappointed by that. Again, as I've said ad nauseum, don't think that it's a bad game because of it. It's just clearly not for me. But talking about the bigger picture, especially with companies, not helping themselves. I think a big part of it is revealing these games too early. And so I've got the release dates, the announced dates and the release dates for all of these games here that Dan mentioned. And we should say that all of these games reviewed very well. All of them reviewed very well. The Last of Us Part 2 was announced in December 2016 and released in June this year.
God,
Red Dead Redemption 2 announced October 2016 and released October 2018, so not too big of a turnaround there. But, that was a sequel to a franchise people have been waiting for since, 2009?
Yeah, it was effectively announced. Yeah, not officially, but in people's heads, I think we all knew that it was probably coming. So, yeah.
So people had a long time to get ridiculously hyped by that. Final Fantasy VII Remake, famously announced in June 2015 and released in April of this year. And I think the best example of all of them, in terms of how to do it, Resident Evil 3 Remake announced in December last year and released in April this year. And I think, as we've discussed, it perhaps didn't review as well as Resi 2 is because Resi 3, the original, wasn't as good as Resi 2.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So that plays into it there, and people who perhaps hadn't played the original Resi 3, like myself, would then appreciate via the remake that, maybe the remake's great, but perhaps the thing it's based on just isn't as good as Resi 2, and that's why it didn't review as well. But Bethesda have done really well with Fallout 4, regardless of what you think of that game. Announcing it and releasing it in the same year allows people to get hyped and allows you to control the marketing. But you can also sort of control it in a sense that it won't get away from people too much because it's a limited time. And as long as you're not going to delay it, then it's going to be okay, right? You can just sort of announce it, release it, and not let people's imaginations run too wild.
Yeah, that's actually something that surprised me with the Crash 4 release date. To go back to that, that's probably my new game that I'm going to bring up all the time because I'm very excited about it. But the good thing is, I'm very excited about it, and it comes out in like 2 months. It was only announced about a month ago. So that's a really short time. Again, it was something that had been rumoured for a long time, but officially speaking, that was announced at that event, and 3 months later, it's going to be released.
People have already gone hands-on with it as well.
They have, yeah, absolutely, and it looks pretty exciting. But I think you're right that there is definitely an element of long build-up, and No Man's Sky is a brilliant example. Actually, I'd kind of forgotten that game existed, but I remember also kind of almost having my head in my hands at times, looking at people's excitement for that game, and not to be a bit, a bit kind of. Oh, well, I always knew it wasn't going to be as good as it was led us to believe. But, I just looked at it and thought, okay, great that you've got this actual solar system or galaxy simulator. That's incredible. And look how big it is. They had that panning shot or that shot where they zoomed through and past all these stars. And they were saying, there's planets around all those stars. It's all randomly generated animals and stuff. But you did just look at that and think, but what do you do? Are we just going to be going from planet to planet, naming that Brachiosaurus, And the fact that they didn't say, oh yeah, and by the way, the name of your character is such and such. Here's a few story cutscenes. It was clearly not going to be. I could tell that it didn't have. It didn't have legs in terms of replayability or staying power.
It was a game built around a mechanic rather than anything more than that. And it's come on leaps and bounds since then, but certainly initially, as an example, like that's definitely one where people just got way too excited, and they didn't help themselves when they lied about it.
No, they definitely lied about it too.
Yeah, for sure. I wasn't a fan of how Sony treated and marketed Ghosts of Tsushima, as I've said before. I don't think they did enough to explain what the game was, and they took ages to show it off properly. But it definitely seems to have worked in their favor, as Dan says. It flew under a lot of people's radars, and it's over-delivered, if anything, because people are playing it and realizing, oh man, I wasn't that hyped for this, and it's really good. So I don't think every company should just not show their game off, but clearly there's something in that's worked for Ghost of Tsushima in this instance.
Yeah, I think to say again, I think you're right that it's about probably the biggest factor maybe is length of hype, or the between announcement and release. I think people just get They have too much time to speculate and come up with ideas. And also it's difficult because something can be announced in a period of time where there are certain expectations about what games can achieve. And then by the time the game is released, like 5 years later, the standards in gaming, they're always changing. They're always going up and up and up, and we're achieving more and more and more. And then, sometimes those games, because they've been in development so long, they do still have some of the limitations of the starting point. They've still got some of those 5-year-old limitations to them. So a game comes out and you think, oh well, maybe it should have been a bit better. Maybe they should have done it to today's standard, not to the standard of the year that they started making it.
Yeah.
So how about that next Elder Scrolls game that was announced was it 2 years ago now, nearly?
Yeah, that's sort of proves the opposite of our points, though, I think, because I couldn't give less of a crap about that game at the moment. Like, I'm annoyed that they announced it that early when they had nothing to say.
Well, yeah, I think that's because we're aware. I think it's because we know, because we're aware of the idea of announcing things early is not a good idea. We don't give as much of a crap about it. But
maybe. That'll change. It'll change, I'm sure.
It will, yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
I was just going to say some people will already be hyped for that.
Oh, of course. Yeah. They'll be buying the knockoff merch and all that kind of stuff. Of course they will. Yeah. That's just how hype works. Well, there we go. Peter, in the fastest fashion possible, where can people find us on the internet?
Team TripleJump everywhere. YouTube and Twitch. We're modded over there by Lord Brotovich, Cecil Prumps, and Masterdactyl and Trowling Badger now. New mods. Did I say Master? I think I always say that.
Do you?
It's definitely Master. Yeah, I can read it perfectly well, but hey, it will always be Master to me.
Okay.
We've got social media, Twitter and Facebook.com/Team TripleJump. Luke Eldon looks after our Facebook very well. Patreon.com/Team TripleJump. All kinds of rewards, early worst games ever, ask questions on this podcast, and so on. We've got a Discord, bit.ly/Team TripleJump, modded by Jack and Joe. The podcast, available in audio form if you're watching on YouTube at play.acast.com/s/TripleJump. The website, triplej.mup, that's ju.mp. And if you go to that website and stick a little /VODs on the end, that's where you can get all of our live stream VODs.
Absolutely. You can follow Peter on Instagram at @PeterAustin and on Twitter at @PeterAustin. You can follow me on Twitter at @confused_dude. We do lists every Tuesday and Thursday, streams every Monday, Thursday and Friday. Thursday being on YouTube. Worst Games Ever is fortnightly. Friday for patrons, Sunday for everyone else. Podcast is every Saturday, and we do a show every other week. When I say a show, I mean something that isn't Worst Games. Please leave us a review on iTunes or your platform of choice. It helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms. There's a new I've put on this script there, worst X means to me. I think it's because I edited where it said worst games from the last week. But no, what X game means to me this week, I'm doing one about Pokemon Blue. You can go hear all my thoughts about Pokemon Blue version there. We've got the new live stream mods, of course. Welcome to Masterdactyl and Trowling Badger. Thank you very much for stepping up and answering the call. Uplink Retro Expo. It's next weekend. It's officially happening. We have the dates now. We're doing a live Worst Games Ever, August the 8th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time or 4 p.m. BST. There will be a live episode of Worst Games Ever. Ticket information can be found at uplink.liretro.com. So go check that out. We'll be live next Saturday. Peter, please tell us the sponsor one more time.
Hey, do you have a wonky dong? Call Wonky Dong. They'll de-wonk your dong.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We'll see you again next time. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Bye!
Bye-bye!